Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living. It's loud and boisterous in here. It's just like it's it's familiar, but it's been so long. It's wonderful to see people chatting and even getting away with a safe hug. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in today. Now we have a very special service for you today. Last Sunday in April, let's make the most of it. Let's sing together our opening song, Change for the Better.
Happy Sunday from the Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Linda Brewer, and we are just so happy that those of you who could are here safely with us on Sunday morning, and for all of you who are part of our love streaming community. You are each and every one of you a blessing for me. Did I mention COVID brain? Okay. Our practitioner sharing a reading and leading us in prayer this morning is Selena Baugh, and our practitioner holding high watch is Jim Ferris. Throughout the service, Jim will be in prayer, knowing that the best and highest is unfolding as we share this sacred time together. Our center is a spiritual community that teaches a philosophy for daily living based on spiritual principles and practices that are universal among religions. We honor every pathway by which people seek to know and connect with the divine, and we work on our individual consciousness so that we can help make the world a better place. So it is so great to have you here in person to say this with us, but whether you're here or at home, please join us in saying together our purpose statement as a community. We are an open, welcoming community, celebrating our divinity, loving our humanity, and nurturing our journeys of spiritual discovery. Thank you. If you want to know anything about what's coming up at our center, we update the website the nanosecond that we know. Well, maybe not the nanosecond, but within an hour of finding out that something's happening that you might want to know about, it's up on our website. So that is the number one place to find out 24/7 what's happening here. or if you're new to our center and you want to learn more about our history and who we are, who the people are that you see up here and do all the things, it's all there. That's the place to look. If you want to register for something that's coming up, or if you want to send in a prayer request, or you want to contact us for anything else, there's a form on there to do that. And if you want to give to the center, you can do that too. So, our website is www.spirituallyfree.org. Thank you. Just a reminder that if you are physically present here with us, we're so glad, and please do remember, wear your mask the whole time you're in the building, and be conscious of giving each other space. Some of us are into hugging, but before you hug somebody, if you're not sure, please ask them if it's okay, so that they don't feel uncomfortable. We want everyone to feel safe and comfortable. Our theme for this month is Stepping into the Unknown, and our speaker this morning, I'm so excited, Rabbi Alan Bachman. His topic is stepping out, stepping up. Right, Alan? Good, okay. Next week, we, through the magic of Raj and Rob and technology, we're having a brand new speaker to our center. Her name is Reverend Sunshine Day. So I hope you will tune in. If you're here with us, it'll be right up there, almost like she's standing right here. And if you're at home, you won't even notice the difference. All of our current members, please be watching your email or snail mail if you don't have email for information on renewing your membership and our annual meeting, which is coming up May 16th. We'll tell you more about the meeting next week, but watch this space and watch your email in the next 24 hours, please. So, as I do each week I'm here, I remind you that our center was founded on and it is grounded in prayer, which helps us deal with everything that comes our way, including this last amazing, incredible, challenging, and growing year. Our professional prayer practitioners are trained in the art and science of affirmative prayer, and they are so very ready to pray with you. If you would like them to do that, just send them a prayer request on the website, and we will get it out to all the practitioners, and sometime this week they'll be praying for you. If you would like to connect personally, let us know that, and we'll have somebody give you a call. And if we all do our part to help keep each other safe, hopefully soon we can have our wall of prayer up here at the end of the service. I know I'm missing that. I know some of you are too, so let's make that happen. So right now I invite you all to settle in. Close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. Allow Selena's reading and the centering music to take you to that sacred space within, and then Selena will lead us in prayer.
Good morning. Our reading this morning is from The Power of You by Chris Michaels, one of my favorite books. Philosopher Ernest Holmes wrote, "We are immortal beings on the pathway of an endless destiny. Though our bodies may be confined to one space and time, our spirit is limitless. The life that resides within us will outlive our mortal bodies. It is a traveler through time and space, gathering experience and adventure. So we are some kind of mashup of human and divine. The thing you call yourself is not really you. You are not the image that reflects in the mirror. Your true identity is in the spirit, not the body. You are a link in a chain of causation that stretches before and after you for life. I'm going to say that again. You are a link in a chain of causation that stretches before and after your life for thousands of generations. How you choose to live your life matters, not only to the people around you, but also to future generations. Because we are all connected to each other in one great big web of life, every time you choose love over hatred, that choice affects us all. Every time you stop and think before you react, Each time you show compassion instead of judgment, you're up there on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, reaching just beyond your grasp to touch the hand of the divine. Every time you work to learn and apply spiritual principles to your life, when you push your consciousness to dream something that's just a little bit beyond your reach, you, just like Voyager 1, covering new territory, reaching out into the unknown. And if you keep doing this, one day your small, petty human self will give away. It will reach its own level by its own weight and sink to the bottom, and your divine self will rise to reach the surface.
My life is in the hands of the Maker of heaven. I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the Maker of heaven. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me. I give it all to you, God, knowing that you'll make something beautiful out of me. So I will climb this mountain with my hands wide open. I will climb this mountain with my hands wide open. There's nothing I hold on to. There's nothing I hold on to. There's nothing I hold on to. There's nothing I hold on. There's nothing I hold on to. There's nothing I hold on to. There's nothing I hold on to. There's nothing I hold on. 'Cause I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the Maker of heaven.
So as I rest in this perfect moment, I recognize that one presence, that one power that is moving through and in all of life, expressing its divine right action, wisdom, love, joy. And I know that I am part and parcel of that one, just as I know that for each and every person here and everywhere. That all of those qualities of the divine are there within each cell of our beings. Always has been, always will be. Here in this human form and elsewhere. Never separate, always expressing. And it's from this deep place of knowing that I recognize that as I drop into that quiet place within and allow that truth of my being to well up into full expression, conscious expression, I do so with love and grace, moving through my day with open heart and open mind, recognizing the divine in each person that I meet. Even in hard situations, I can look beyond and see the truth of myself and all creation. So I invite you to join me in knowing this truth. I invite you to move forth into this day with an open mind, open heart, allowing the words that will be spoken this day, the music, to facilitate that opening, that deepening, taking it in and bringing it forth into expression throughout our day, our week. I'm grateful for this time together this morning. I'm grateful for these teachings and those that we will hear this day. So I just release this word. It's spoken, therefore it's done. As together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Selena. So I'm in my 60s, and I've had a lot of plans. Some of them came to fruition in some form. Some of them were disasters. I'm sure you can relate to this. It's good for us to have expectations. It helps us visualize the things that we desire to create in our life. It's also really good to go with the flow. That's what this song that we're going to sing together. This is our community song for this month. It's called Into Your Hands. And it's all about trusting that step that we take into our plans, which really is an unknown. As much as we crystallize this view of what it's going to be like, there's lots of surprises sometimes. And sometimes not so feel-good ones. But if we trust in the divine, trust in ourselves, that we can ride this gentle canoe down the river of life, knowing that Spirit is with us, in us, as us, around us, and all is well. Let's sing together. Into Your Hands.
Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I commit my soul. Into your hands I
Thanks so much for singing along. Isn't that a great song? Jamie Lula. It's my privilege to introduce our special music today. I'm always so excited when this young lady comes and shares some music, and she has written some new tunes. So she is a mom, she's a teacher, and she's just an amazing singer, and she shines as a songwriter, performer. It's so obvious that her heart is in this expression. And she has 2 little boys and a loving husband, a wonderful life. And I'm sure all of this supports the inspiration that comes to her. It's just so beautiful what she writes. I can't wait for you to hear these songs today. Let's welcome Mindy Dillard.
Well, I want us to give another round of applause for the band first, actually, because aren't they amazing today? Delanne, your voice is gorgeous, and I loved listening to you guys singing those songs so far. It's just beautiful, and I love the way you're playing together. All right. Yeah, I'm back again. It feels like it hasn't been too long since I was here, and I'm grateful to be back. And yeah, I love this topic today about change and the way we're always changing and transforming. And, you know, for a long time, I've called myself a musical alchemist. And because I do write about this. I think this is like the core thing I write about is the way that I change, the way that people can change. Because I believe some people say people can't change, but I think people can change. But then there's like the changes we make for ourselves and then the changes that sometimes happen to us, like you were talking about, Rick. So yeah, it's such a challenge to let go. But I've been thinking a lot about just like that moment of letting go. Like, when do you decide to really let go of something that you've held on to for a long time, or some vision or dream you've had for yourself? You know, it's so hard, but it can also be so good for us too, right? To go on to the next thing, because maybe the reason why we were doing the other thing before was to get us ready for the next thing, and it's such a complex yet simple thing that we all have to go through all the time. So I'm going to sing a song. It is a pretty new song, and it's about how sometimes dreams can get kind of transformed into other dreams without you even realizing it. So it's like a dream is getting taken over by the next transformation. Can I have a little more guitar? My dream was hijacked by a dream, slowly like aging. Now while I was asleep, oh no, a new dream seized control of my attention and my soul. I have to rethink everything. Letting go of what was engraved on my heart. My heart is strong, still it hurts. I try to learn what I can learn. I could choose to move with grace, though I don't yet understand why I had to sort through all those kernels, why I had to follow those dead ends, why I had to dig up all my sorrows, why I had to uproot all my plans to get where I am. There was no violation, No high-stakes heist involved. No one stole my destiny. I forgive myself least of all. Regret, a bitter flower I don't wanna taste of you. I have to rethink everything, everything. Letting go of what was engraved on my heart. My heart is strong, still it hurts. I try to learn what I can learn. I could choose to move with grace, though I don't yet understand why I had to sort through all those kernels, why I had to follow those dead ends, why I had to dig up all my sorrows, why I had to uproot all my plans to get where I am. Thank you.
Oh, wow, Mindy. You just always do it for me. Forgive myself least of all. Anybody else relate to that one? I don't remember when I first crossed paths with Alan Bachman. I do know from his bio that his very first friend in Utah, over 35 years ago, was our own Raj, and they've been close friends ever since. I think the first time I ever didn't personally cross paths but became aware of him, I think that his group, Desert Wind, probably did the music here at the center in my early days, many times since, of course. I began to get him know him personally when we were both members of the Salt Lake Interfaith Roundtable, and he then became the leader of that group and did a wonderful job doing that job. Somewhere I became aware of his life as an attorney. I was thrilled when I heard that he had started rabbinical training. It always touched my heart when I hear someone I care about did chaplain training at St. Mark's, where I trained. And, you know, in recent years, with his group Desert Wind doing the music and then being a speaker here, it's just, you know, gone on and on over the years. I love how very much I always learn when Alan speaks. And he inspires me to go and learn more, to go and study some things. And I also love, we had a great talk on the phone yesterday. I love the way that he integrates his humanity and his spirituality, or as we say here in our purpose statement, our humanity, loving our humanity. Welcome, what is it we say? No, about humanity, anyway, our divinity. It's humanity and divinity. He does a great job rating those two things, is what I'm trying to say. I miss my brain. I am so happy that someone with a brain is going to take over right here while I move away. Please welcome Rabbi Alan Bachman.
Wow, I'm so grateful to be here. What a nice introduction. It was a real honor. From Reverend Linda Brewer, amazing person. Maybe that said more about her than me, I don't know. But this band, unbelievable. I remember when Raj and I brought this up before, when we played at Unity in 1988, they had 2 organists doing church hymns every week until we came along with Mary and sort of rocked the place. But Raj just told me a little bit ago he's not a rocker, but I don't buy that because I've heard him play the drums. So sorry, Raj, we're not going to believe that. And this band, absolutely amazing. I mean, there's a lot of spiritual places that have great bands, Maybe some are as good, but there are none that are better, I'll tell you that right now. None anywhere. It's just unbelievable and beautiful, and it's the way it's supposed to be. They brought up a special guest musician here, honored her in her music, because really, as I told Rick earlier, the one entity listing on the list of musicians was God. You know, the inspiration, the one who created the entire universe, which allows music to even exist. But they'll probably add that to the sheet there, or maybe it was all in the white letters, the white outlines around the black letters was God's name anyway. So anyway, the talk today, stepping out, stepping up. Boy, this is the toughest one. This is the toughest one I think I've ever had to do here. Ernest Holmes says, the time has come. Then he says these four words, which are the most important, the reason we're here. He says, the power from within has come forth and is expressing through my word. I do not have to wait. Today is the time. Today I enter into all truth. Today I am completely saved and healed and made happy. Today I enter into my inheritance. Today the truth has made me free. Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind, page 334. So today is the day. Okay, so today we're all going to leave here and know exactly what this incredible deployment is for ourselves, right? Because you heard my talk and I've laid it out. In fact, I can't even see half of you. And even if I could, I couldn't see you behind the mask. But yes, that's what's going to happen today. Isn't that great? So there's a great Jewish commentator, incredibly great man, Martin Buber. Some of you may have heard of him. He wrote about a rabbi. I guess Martin Buber in many ways was a rabbi. He wrote about Rabbi Zusia. Rabbi Zusia said that before he dies, Rabbi Zusia said, in the coming world, they will not ask me, why was I not like Moses? They will ask me, why was I not Rabbi Zusia? That's for us all to think about as we leave this world and have our legacy. Why am I not me? Why am I not me? I'm not going to be asked, why wasn't I like Moses or Jesus or the Buddha, Martin Luther King Jr., many of our great heroes. But I'm here to be me, and each one of you is here to be you. That's our mission. I've heard it said, I think it was Donald Graves who mentioned this many years ago. He said, he was quoting somebody else, and I'm sorry I don't know who it was, but he said, if you take your greatest talent and apply it to the greatest need, that's where God wants you to be. And this answer could be different for each one of us, because we all have different talents. But the needs are now becoming quite obvious, because even though we have to do a paradigm shift within ourselves to assess this greatest talent, go to the greatest need, and often have to change our own self and our own life, the world also has been going through a major, major paradigm shift. Let me talk about an earlier one. Reb Zalman Schachter Shalomi of blessed memory, he wrote a book called Paradigm Shift. I recommend it to everybody. And he talks about paradigm shifts in the world that have occurred about every 2,000 years. For Christians, they would probably relate to 2,000 years ago being a paradigm shift with Jesus and the advent of Christianity. So it's a pretty obvious paradigm shift a couple thousand years ago. Also happened in Judaism. It was such a big paradigm shift that Jewish law had to change, which is really hard to do, by the way, because it's a very old religion. But it changed because the temple was destroyed and the people were dispersed and the religion was going to die. And there was a law ever since Mount Sinai. There was a law that a written Torah was given on Mount Sinai. And it was a little sketchbook, this Torah. But along with it came oral instructions that would be passed down from generation to generation. And it was absolutely forbidden to write these instructions down as to what the Torah really meant. Absolutely forbidden. Generation after generation would teach each other by mouth, because it was called Sheba al Peh. The Torah, Sheba al Peh. Peh is for mouth. You can almost hear the mouth in the word Peh, which means mouth. It's almost like you're spitting. It comes from the mouth. Very important, because that meant people had to learn from each other. If you had an oral Torah that wasn't written, you didn't have a book. People had to get together to make it pass along. But after the temple was destroyed and the great paradigm shift and the religion about to fall apart, Yehuda Hanasi decided, I'm going to get my disciples together, scribes together. We are going to write down the oral Torah from all these years. And they did. It later became the Mishnah and then the Talmud. It became huge. And it still exists today. The oral Torah is still unfolding. That was a paradigm shift 2,000 years ago. Did we have another paradigm shift lately? Yeah. I'm looking at all these masks out there. Yeah, we're in a big paradigm shift. But let's talk about some of the big ones that we've had in the last 100 years. The Holocaust, the age of machinery, finally reached this great conclusion where machinery could be used for evil, and millions of people could be killed, murdered efficiently, without empathy. That was a great paradigm shift for humanity to realize that human beings could reach that level. Followed up with a nuclear bomb and the realization for the first time, even though we can trace primates on Earth for thousands and thousands of years, for the very first time, really, we touch it in our lifetimes, we have the ability to destroy the entire Earth. You could not say that 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, but you can say it today. We have the ability to destroy the entire planet. And any small group of people can do that today. That means mountains. Like the LDS pioneers went over these mountains and said, okay, we're over the mountains, we're safe. Hey, it doesn't work in the nuclear age. No way. So we have to build bridges today and have interfaith organizations. That's another paradigm shift. Another paradigm shift is the internet. We're now connected with the entire world through the internet. The global pandemic, climate change, a global crisis. Okay, talk about applying your talent to the greatest need. Heck, if the climate goes away, that sustains life, you know, that sounds pretty big. You couldn't say that 1,000 years ago, that human beings could get involved across the planet and do something about that. Then another one, more on a positive note, seeing the Earth from the moon. When that shot occurred decades ago, where people actually saw the Earth from outer space, all of a sudden there were no divisions between nations, no divisions between people. We got a view of the Earth that people-kind had not seen ever, ever. These are just parts of the paradigm shift that this world has experienced. Part of the result of this paradigm shift and the ability to destroy this whole planet, whether it's nuclear, whether it's biological, we now realize what biological can do, okay, or whether it's through the change in the climate, etc., we have to change. And this means religions and organized religions have to change. Every faith has to change. Science of Mind, Center for Spiritual Living hasn't done this. What is this big change? I'm sorry, Science of Mind, Spiritual Living has already done this. Non-triumphalism. That's the key phrase, a big phrase, a favorite of Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi, a blessed memory. Non-triumphalism is the idea that there isn't going to be one group of people that found the great wisdom of God and everybody else is wrong. And God is going to come down someday and say to this group of people, guess what? You're the winners, and everybody else is a loser, okay? Everybody else lost, they're all screwed up, you know, but you had the wisdom. You're the one and only true belief system on the entire planet. Well, guess what? That idea that we're the one and only true belief system in the entire planet and everybody else is wrong is the reason why you have people in many cases killing other people. And this is the reason why some people might think, you know what? We can nuke some other country because they're heathens. They don't have the truth and wisdom and they're going to destroy the planet. Non-triumphalism has to go away. But that doesn't mean you can't think you're special in God's light. In fact, it takes a God to create multiple one and only true faiths. But they're multiple, because just like you might love 5 children and tell each child, you know what, I love you more than anything. Don't tell the other kids, I actually love you more than the other kids. But you might say that to every other kid too. That's how God is. God loves us all so much that God told every people, here's my share of wisdom, and I love you so much. You're special. You're chosen. You got a task. But as Reb Zalman would say, every task is just part of the body. Judaism might be a liver. Islam might be a kidney. Christianity, might be the digestive system. But the point is, we're all organs of this body. And without all the organs together, the body doesn't function. We all need each other. So that's the paradigm shift from an organizational standpoint. But we got to do the paradigm shifts within, too. The favorite part of my Ernest Holmes quote I told you was for the power from within. What is this power? As I talked about before, it's the light of God. It's the light that was created the very first day. The sun and the stars were not created until the 4th day. So what was this light on the first day when there's no sun and stars? It's the light of God that went through the entire universe, is inside you, inside each being, inside every entity, every sentient being, even rocks. As the Hasidic master said, even rocks are alive. They just breathe really slow, okay? We can't see them breathe, but everything is alive and everything is filled with God. Isaiah says it. The whole world is filled with God's glory. This is important because Ernest Holmes says we can reach within because this God is within us. So change is possible, but we got to reach within. How do we do this? How do we do this? How do we hear the voice of God? Some do it by meditation. Some pray. They're all different types of special practices. Abraham was called upon God in a chapter of the Bible where God says, Lech lecha, get out of Ur. Well, what's interesting about getting out of the city of Ur, where Abraham was born? Ur means light. Abraham had to get out of the city of light in order to see and hear the light of God. And we have to get out of, where's my cell phone? Right here. This is not the light of God. Okay, the television is not the light of God. All the neon lights of Las Vegas and Salt Lake City and whatnot, they're not the light of God. And sometimes we have to get out of all that light, go into nature, wherever it is, meditation, get within to really experience the light of God and not be cluttered by the other lights. So that's going to help us find out what that deployment is for ourselves. Believe me, you have one. Because God, believes it or not, this is part of the paradigm shift in thinking of God. We think that, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to pray to God, or go to synagogue, or go to my mosque and pray to God. Guess what? God is constantly praying for each one of us. God prays. As it says in the oral Torah, then in the Talmud, every blade of grass has an angel that promotes its growth. In a sense, that angel prays for that blade of grass to grow. God and the angels pray for our growth, pray that we find our special deployment. And so we must listen to God. I found God interesting in a rock song. It was an incredible paradigm-shifting rock song by The Who. Pete Townsend wrote it, where he actually writes down a song where God is praying to a little boy. And it's really God praying to us. And I want to go through these words, but this is Tommy from the rock opera Tommy. Tommy was young. Remember the deaf, dumb, and blind boy, but sure plays a great pinball? Deaf, dumb, and blind, and abused in terrible ways. And he tries to do something successfully, and he fails. He's at the lowest of lows in Tommy's life. But God prays for him. And what does God do? Because God has empathy. And if you're an invisible God in everything, you don't have it all without us. So God says in these lyrics, which were just there on the screen, and will probably come back. There we go. See, because we have beautiful people back there. God says, see me. Gosh, isn't that the words that an invisible God would say? That's the first thing God would say is, please see me, which also means like hear me too, because light and sound are connected. Feel me, feel God. Touch me and heal me. The God that's in everything, that has empathy and is experiencing the pandemic and our pain, also needs to be healed. And then God says this really special to Tommy. Listening to you, Tommy, to each one of us, I get the music. God hears music through us. Gazing at you, I get the heat. Following you, I climb the mountain. I get excitement at your feet. Wow. If God gets excited because of who we are and who we can be, we should be excited about what we are and what can unfold by that connection within that Ernest Holmes talks about. Right behind you, I see the millions. Each one of us can affect millions. God realizes that through each one of us, God and the love of God that's so infinite can affect millions. On you, Tommy, and all of us, I see the glory. From us, each one of us, God gets the opinions. God hears all the different stories. From you, I get the story. God hears the opinions, the stories, all the different revelations, because God is multivocal, and God gets to hear them back through us. So this is very powerful. It's very powerful to think that not only do we pray to the divine entity and seek it for power, but we're in partnership with the divine entity, and that divine entity at all times is praying for our success. So let's hear the Who pray for our success as they sing the inspired words from God. Here we go. Let's rock it out, because we are stepping out here at Center for Spiritual Living. Take it, Who.
Touch me, feel me, see me, feel me, touch me, feel me, see me, feel me. and you, and you, and you, and you. Always listening to you.
And he actually goes around the room and says, and you, and you, and you, and you. To each one, he does that at the end of that. Because that's God listening to each one of us and praying for us. So that's where we start, like Ernest Holmes says, with that power within. Find our deployment. We already realize the world's got great paradigm shifts and great missions for each one of us. Then there's an important teaching that I'll end this with, and this comes out of Leviticus chapter 19. Chapter 19 of Leviticus is often called the Holiness Code. It's written by the people who believe in the documentary hypothesis of the writing of the Bible, where there were different redactors, that this is the redactors by the priesthood class, by the priests. And they say something very, very important that has never really been interpreted by many very well. Do not put a stumbling block in front of the blind. I am Yud-He Vav-He. I am Yud-He Vav-He. Why is that at the end of that sentence? Because that blind person has God within them. But it's more than not putting a stumbling block in front of a blind person, because obviously a blind person could not succeed if people kept on putting stumbling blocks in front of the blind person. But let's look at it from a positive tone. What it's really saying is one of the holiest things we can do is help somebody else succeed. So don't just not put a stumbling block in front of somebody. Clear a path. Clear a path for yourself. Clear a path for others. And may we all find this in us to be able to do this, connecting with the divine. We've gone through the pandemic. We've seen that we can't get through these new paradigm shifts on the earth alone. It takes us all wearing masks. It takes us all doing things, because this pandemic is the great equalizer. It's shown how equal we all really are, and it's also shed light on how many inequalities exist in our world, whether it's getting vaccines or other items, and the difference between rich and poor people, unfortunately. But we're here to fix that. Reb Zalman says one of the things we can all do in our deployment is this planet needs a lot of blessings. Reb Zalman says it is underblessed. An underblessed reality is like empty calories. So let's join me. I'm going to combine parts of Reb Zalman's blessing with basically a science of mind treatment, which in many ways is like a blessing. So I ask you join me in this blessing the planet, the next generation, all species. And I do this by first recognizing the power of the one divine, that great light that's in all of us, all sentient beings and everything. And we connect with this super force that created the entire universe. And then we bless the planet, the next generation, all species, all good intentions in people's hearts, all the efforts to build bridges among people and to see the divine light in ourselves, each person, all sentient beings and all creation, for even a rock is alive, as I said. And we do this, we bless all those people who feel burnout from their service to others, to all the physicians and medical workers and everybody else who's been working on cures for this pandemic, for cancer, for AIDS, and many disorders, for the prisoners in our penal systems who want to start a new and better life, for warring nations to find a way to peace and cooperation, and for those who have come to leave their body to be able to do so serenely and with awareness, and for the children about to be born to become agents of blessing. May it be so. Amen. 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 I let it go, and so it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I give. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
It's my privilege to facilitate our offering today. And I had something to say. I think that's why they let me do this. It's been a challenging year. I'm excited now to see and feel the changes that will enable us to gather together safely. There is a light at the end of this tunnel, and it's coming. I can see it. It'd be so good to be together like we used to. And of course, it won't be exactly like we used to, but I'm open to that. This time of giving, I always feel so grateful. I appreciate remembering the things that I'm grateful for and to give from that place. I feel so grateful for the Wizard of Raj and Rob Marker back there, just mastering this awesome technology that we have to live stream our services. I'm grateful for our leadership here, the Board of Trustees, the Ministry Council. They rose to the challenge, steering us through these last 13 months. I'm grateful to our practitioners who held us in prayer and lifted us. I'm grateful to all those volunteers who facilitated the procedures and safety precautions that allowed us to provide the services still these last 13 months and keep us all safe. My heart is full of gratitude for you who sustain us and with your financial blessings, your donations that allowed us to stay open and make some lemonade of these lemons that were tossed at us. And so I received this $1,400 check in my bank account. Yeah, I was grateful for that. It felt so good to give a little chunk of that to this center, to my spiritual home, my spiritual family, out of gratitude for all those things that I just said. It is so awesome. I am so blessed. We are so blessed. So if you are feeling grateful and you want to see us grow and thrive and move toward getting our new minister, which is, it is a reality. It is a bright, shining reality, maybe more than it ever has been. Well, I invite you to consider giving a special gift above and beyond your usual donations. And help us make that happen. And thank you in advance. Now, if you'll read with me our giving statement. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Filled with gratitude, I let it be. And so it is. And so it is.
All that I need comes to me. All that I need comes to me. The light of love and grace shines upon my face. All that I need comes to me. I've been set free, I'm released. I've been set free, I'm released. The burden of my past has gone away at last. I've been set free, I'm released. All that I need comes to me. All that I need comes to me. The light of love and grace shines upon my face. All that I need comes to me. All that I need comes to me.
And now let's have Mindy Dillard come up and share another beautiful song. Mindy Dillard.
All right. So back to the idea of, changes that come, whether we like it or not, and what we choose to do about it. Do we accept it? Do we, refuse to accept it? Because, you can do either thing when you are faced with these situations. And one time that I chose to accept, kind of the biggest time I've had in my life so far, was when I had my first little boy, whose name is Cyrus. And it was a big acceptance, and I am just so grateful that I went with that flow of having him come and join my family. And there's been a really cool thing that's been happening just like with him and me lately, which is that he's starting to kind of know some of my songs, and he has like favorites that he asks me to sing, like ones I've written. Because for a while it was like, no, Mommy, I don't want to hear that one, But now it's like, he's like, sing the one about the little sparks and about the sticky fingers, and that's the one I'm going to sing for you. And this has really just been like a little ditty that I kind of made up while I was, trying to get clothing on my children. They don't really like wearing clothes much at the moment. But I'm going to share it with you. So it's Sai's, one of his little favorite songs right now.
Hey, little spark, when you came, I woke up inside my heart. I'll never be the same. And here's to my little old plan. Didn't work out in the end, but I found a magic land of Sunday morning waffles covered in syrup, of tiny little feet and sticky hands. Hey, little spark when you came. I woke up inside my heart. I'll never be the same. Oh, I'm your beautiful genius, and you're my surprise treasure. My love for you is seamless. My love cannot be measured. Here's to my little old plan. It didn't work out in the end. I found a magic land of magna tile castles in the living room, of baby voices singing Christmas tunes. Hey, little spark, when you came, I lit up inside my heart. I'll never be the same. Oh, I'm your beautiful genius, and you're my surprise treasure. My love for you is seamless. My love cannot be measured. And hi, Sci Guy, if you're watching at home. I think you might be.
Mindy Dillard, what a sweet, sweet song. Little Spark. Thank you, Alan Bachman, Rabbi Alan Bachman. Marvelous, marvelous message. I saw the musical Tommy in Detroit, and I had no idea what I was watching. I think I was 13 or 14, and I was surprised my parents let me go. To hear that song, because I've heard that particular song from The Who so many times, but to consider it from the perspective of God praying for us is just beautiful. And I guess I can see why you were so moved by those words and the music that matches it so beautifully, powerfully. Anyway, what a special day. Thank you all for tuning in, for coming. Thank you for being considerate of our safety precautions. It's just a little bit longer, and we'll be free. Next Sunday is next month, so we'll have some new music, some new speakers, some new messages, and begin the lusty month of May. I guess, can I say that in church? I mean that in all its positive ways. Bring it on, all right? Let's sing together our closing song. Remember, we're building mountains, and we don't know how, but we're going to do it because we're supported. Going to build a mountain.
Gonna build a mountain from a little hill. Gonna build a mountain, at least I hope I will. Gonna build a mountain, gonna build it high. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, only know I'm gonna try. Gonna build a daydream from a little hope. Gonna push that daydream up the mountain slope. Gonna build a daydream, build a mountain from a little hill. Gonna build a mountain, least I hope I will. Gonna build a mountain, gonna build it high. In my mind I have a vision, my mountain's gonna touch the sky. I'll take my daydream up that mountain, and heaven will be waiting there.